nice front and back, leader's garment. Quite happy.
It's alright, isn't it? Looks pretty good in that bad boy.
Excellent, I think the word you're looking for is... Look at that thing. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? Beautiful.
Now, only if you're ready for this.
Welcome back to the OTB podcast, New Zealand's original and still the best mountain bike podcast. Brought to you by Troy Lee Designs, Smith Optics, and Filthy Bike Wash. We are back. I guess we've already done one episode, but feels to be good to be back in the hot seat, boys. Red Dog, welcome back, mate.
Yeah, great to be back, Kerry. And just for the listeners, Moki, Chris, and myself have actually formed a OTB co-host union. We have some specific demands that have not been met, so we will be sitting this one out.
Right. Oh, well,
right.
Nice to have you here, guys.
Actually, our demands were met, but Kerry said you can have whatever negative amount of money I've put into this.
Yeah. So you guys can join in my debt.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, that'll work. That works
Wouldn't
good
even
for
give
me.
us food on course, the bastard.
No, I'm not giving you food. I'm not giving you accommodation allowance. I'm not giving you anything.
I'm unimpressed that I have to pay my own mortgage.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed that you
Welcome
won't
to 2024.
You won't fund someone else to come on the podcast who's like an up and coming podcaster. That's the big thing that sort of that gets me. I could have moved on other things, don't have to pay my flights, my accommodation.
No.
But if you'd funded an up and comer to join us on the podcast, that's what I needed.
Couple of rookies
For the future of the sport.
I was gonna throw out some of the topics I had written down, but I think we'll just start on crankworx then, shall we? It's the hot topic this week.
Well, no. Before we do that, I'm just going to sub out. But there's a couple of women that are pretty keen to come and fill the seat, and you can just have them on the podcast instead.
They'll probably do a better job, to be fair.
Probably. I would
100%.
100% back that.
Yeah.
I better job.
Yeah.
They're definitely not as demanding as you are, Chris. That's for sure.
No.
Yeah.
Their laptops probably don't need updates right before the show.
100% not.
But,
no.
Right, so slopestyle walkout. The slopestyle walkout. They formed a union, as it appears, and they walked out of the job. What the fuck? That was not what I was expecting to read. So I was in the middle of the Mammoth Enduro, and I was like in and out of reception. And I get this message from someone, bro, with an exclamation mark, and I can't see what the message is about. And I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever. I couldn't see what the rest of it was, and I was like, oh well, whatever. And then 2 hours later, I'm back in reception, and I'm like, holy shit, the slopestyle guys have walked out and they're not competing. So that became the talk of Saturday during practice.
Did anyone else get the sense that
it was weird that they flew halfway around the world, spent heaps of money to not do anything?
Yeah. So, I first read it and I was like, these fucking guys, entitled. It was all, I just immediately was like, it's the fucking slopestyle guys, I was ready to just lay into them. But I've done a bit of digging.
It sounds fairly legit.
I've messaged a few people behind the scenes.
You messaged Rogue Atkin, did you?
Yeah, straight
Which
into
one
Rogue
did you
Atkin's DMs to see what the deal was. No, I just got into the group chat. I actually just put all of them into a group chat and just sent them a message from the podcast.
Did you flash the media?
Did you send it to the union representative or not?
Oh, that would have been strong. I should have actually just put every single one of them into a group chat from the OTB account and asked them why.
Did you flash the media pass
you're obviously
or the
about to
industry
probably
pass?
agree with what I'm about to say.
Oh, I was actually at crankworx on a straight walking through the gate pass.
Nice.
I had the paper wristband and everything. I couldn't get anywhere.
Pay-per-view.
Oh, slumming it.
What were you doing there?
Yeah, but actually, thanks to Jingles from, I went for work, but I still didn't really have any sort of actual industry path to get in, so it was good.
Went for the work and stayed for the slopestyle.
So what's each of our takes on it then? Why don't you withhold your real information until we've spilled our opinions?
All right.
Because maybe I'll go last because
I feel like you've probably got more information.
My
than Red
opinion,
Dog
I think, might differ to you guys.
I have an opinion. I don't what union here nor there. If they've got things they want to sort out, they should sort out. Timing wise, probably not the best. And I think the most disappointing thing was that they probably undermined the women's event a little bit. Like all the guys walking out because they're not getting an appearance fee when the women are doing this thing for free with way less money kind of felt a little bit lame. But I'm sure they have good reason.
I think it was
but
equal prize money.
Well.
I'm pretty sure it was equal prize money. So the women definitely cashed out and took their fair share home and put on a good show at the same time. But same thing. It was kind of in one way it elevated it because it was the only people competing, but at the same time I heard there was massive queues of people waiting to get refunds because the show wasn't on.
Really?
So spectators were like...
Hey, sorry, are you talking about Crankworx or the Willy Wonka experience in Scotland?
Seems like maybe it's
I have to admit, my first reaction was like, what the fuck? Come on, guys. But it does seem like their requests were legit. But the whole thing also seems like it was terribly handled because it sort of seems like one of those things that, in a negotiation like that, they've got leverage, right? And their leverage is, hey, we're the show, so we're not going to turn up. But at the same time, if you overplay that leverage to the point where there is no negotiating, and it's just, hey, we're all here, we're going to make you look as fucking terrible as possible, no one wins out of that because Crankworx is going to be pretty fucked now. Like, that's the main event. Crankworx, as we'll get into today, I'm sure, is not exactly looking amazing at the moment. And I think that they may have almost done more damage to Crankworx and this event than they needed to establish their position. And it also, what surprised me in the statement that they provided, and again, this is purely as a spectator, right? I don't have the insight, but they said that this has been, 3 years of negotiations building up to this. I'm like, how do you go 3 years of negotiations and then blindside the local event organisers? Because that was the other argument from the locals. Like the Kiwis who were organising Crankworx New Zealand sounded like they didn't have the people at the table who could actually meet the demands, even if they wanted to. And so it sort of sounds like they being everyone, really, not just the riders, but a situation was created where it was almost an impossible situation and there was no winning. And I think out of this, Crankworx is fucked. The slopestyle riders themselves don't look great because there's no positive outcome yet. And where does it go from here? There's no resolution. So that's my view.
Yeah. I think the biggest loser out of this is probably the team that puts together Crankworx Rotorua, the 100%. Local team. Because all of a sudden, they had no control and their marquee event is gone. They got people walking out. It was already the event's already on struggle street, I'd say, to provide the entertainment that it has in the past. I think people have seen the same thing kind of over and over, and it just doesn't have that same excitement as what it used to. And then, they just get blindsided by something they have no control over or no involvement in. But it's, from what I've heard, you pretty much hit the nail on the head, I think, Chris, with a lot of that. But Lester, what's been on your radar?
Yeah, no, I totally same as what Chris is saying, pretty much. I mean, I'm kind of torn because I guess you can see both sides of the fence, right? From a rider's point of view, they are the show. You want to go home having not lost money to turn up to the event. The other side to that is that in Crankworx defence, it's a world tour professional event, and if you want to get money, you've got to get the podium. And it kind of sucks though that that's the way it is, but kind of that's professional sport to some degree as well. So. I think there should be a nominal fee, and it should be like, here's your budget for the season. If you're on the Crankworx World Tour, you've got, this is your travel budget. if you want to blow that all on one event by staying in some Hilton or something like that, then more power to you. But if you want to go and spend that and stay in campgrounds all the time and come out and break even, then that's great too.
But there's also...
But I do think, I totally feel for the Crankworx guys. I mean, like 3 weeks before the event, I think it was only 3 weeks, I had an interview with Ari for the mag. And just having, I guess, that little bit of a semi-personal connection there, and then seeing that all go down, I was just like, man, the Rotorua guys are all bust their gut to get it off the ground. I think it's fair to say that they're battling, like, regardless of who's saying it's a record year for sales of tickets and rah-rah. I mean, if you were on the ground, even if you weren't on the ground, you saw photos of the events, and there wasn't as many people in the photos as there was other years.
No.
And then, to be on the ground there, I only went for one afternoon on Friday, but there just wasn't the people. And I mean, I guess like you said, KB, if you've been looking at this for 10 years, nothing's different really. And for us, we're not going to keep going 10 years in a row to see the same stuff. And if there's not racing EDH could be kind of cool, but outside of that, unless you're UKB, why would we go? There's not really another draw card. It was rad, I think, when they had the Enduro there, because that drew a whole pool of people.
This is the Crankworx problem, though.
But without that, it's kind of just...
This is the problem with the Crankworx format, where they sort of put all the events on the same level, even though you've got like the slopestyle, which is a true like global attractive event, and it's impressive. You've got, or you should really have, the downhill, which, given that it's perfect pre-season timing, could be a really great pre-World Cup like heater event. But then you've got all these like sideshow events that all get put on the same level, and it sort of diminishes the value of everything rather than elevating the value of some of the things. And then I think they've made it worse by taking, especially the downhill, and going and putting it somewhere else. Like that downhill event may as well be in Wellington. Like, it doesn't matter that it's just across town.
That was a bad move.
It makes no sense. Like, it's not Crankworx anymore. It's just a race in Rotorua.
Yeah.
I think in their defence in that, though, like, they're gone for the better course, for sure, because they can't use that top section, I don't think. So the bottom section is pretty patu.
Yeah.
But also, from what I hear, it was pretty well attended, that downhill.
It's because it's free.
Yeah,
you have
exactly.
To,
so
anything.
It
you roll
becomes
up.
the only free event of the weekend.
But how?
And that's been my whole thing. I talked to a few people over the course when I was up there. I'm like, I feel like the only way to save that event in Rotorua now would be to move it to the forest somehow and make it free.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can get people enthused, because people can go out, they can ride their bikes. If you're a bike manufacturer who wants to be there in Expo, you can send people out on demo rides. You could take, you can lead rides out from there if you want to kind of do that style of activation. But yeah, I think the paid thing is losing it, like it's too much money for not much.
But that's the whole point.
Do we know what it actually
event
cost? Because I heard it was like $25.
It's $25 a day, or $35 for a day, and then it's something like, maybe it was 25, and then it's like 85 for the whole event.
Right.
So you're
it's
taking,
not too bad, really. I mean, that's
so
cheap
you've got
in the grand scheme of
mum,
things.
dad, 2 or 3 kids, and you're paying what, north of $160 to just go and walk around an event expo. Like, I'm sorry, but that doesn't look like good value if you're not
There was 20 exhibitors there.
Yeah.
I was about to just say the same thing, Chris. I was like, that's all well and good, but
Yeah, like, so
there's not a lot
so
left.
none of us are turning up to pay $25 to go to an exhibitor tent, right? A family of 4 or 5 people, especially at the moment, like, it's not like people want to throw $160 at attending an industry expo, especially when you've got a bunch of different sideshow events. I think the biggest problem with Crankworx in New Zealand particularly is it's got an identity problem. It's like, is it a pay to enter on the day like physical spectacle? Is it a pre-season primer? Is it a world tour slopestyle event? And I think whatever, it could be any one of those things. So as you say, Kerry, it could be in the forest, and the funding could come from the industry, and it could be 100% free to enter, and you could have literally thousands of people riding around the forest, like embracing what makes Rotorua amazing.
We look at how busy that forest is on any given weekend.
100%, right? And especially with all the infrastructure they built
this
there.
would all be solved.
Sorry, Lester.
Man,
This-
we've sidetracked.
I think probably this could all be solved once Rod Drury opens his bike park in Queenstown. Crankworx will probably go there.
Yeah.
Is he
So-
building a bike park?
Rod
Probably not.
Drury, if you're listening, let's fast track this.
Well, that's the other thing.
Please
Is
say
that Red Dog and I
Crankworx.
talked about
Jesus,
this.
we're going to go way too sideways if we carry on down this track. Do we want to go back to the slopestyle athletes walking out, or are we going to say
I think we've
Crankworx?
covered that. Oh, what's the inside goss?
Yeah,
Let's go
what do you
there.
know, Kerry?
So we're still not there. Okay.
No. See, we're coming back full circle.
But that's like the 30 minutes of the best
apparently,
commentary
so
you'll
this is-
hear about Crankworx in New Zealand anywhere. So, we've done our sponsors due, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weren't we supposed to be walking out by now?
Yeah, you guys are supposed to stage a walkout, but
I couldn't afford it.
no. So apparently this is what's been happening for like the last 10 years. They've been getting a $1,200 appearance fee, so they get $1,200. They get their hotel covered, so they're staying free in a hotel.
There's a lot of people in Rotorua
And
staying
they
home
get shuttled
for,
to
in a
an- you know,
hotel
they
for
get-
free, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry.
They maybe that's part of the government funding. So they get that, and they get shuttled. You know, they get picked up from the airport. They get shuttled back and forth to the race. So they're not getting rental cars or anything like that. The $1,200, I guess, goes towards covering their flights or whatever. But I mean, you look at a guy like Emilio Hansen, who won the slopestyle Triple Crown, and he probably made like, I don't know, 150 grand out of prize money of Crankworx last year. I'm sure that $1,200 is like falling out of his back pocket. Like, it's probably not really a big of an issue for him. But and apparently for about 3 years they've been trying to get it upped. So they wanted a pay rise essentially. But this is where I'm like, okay, fair enough. 10 years, inflation, it probably should go up a bit. And I'm like, fair for the riders that, they want a bit more, and seems like maybe they've been having some battles negotiating with Crankworx. But so the other thing I heard is that they have like 14 invited riders, and then they have 2 alternates or something along those lines. So the alternates come to the event, they practice, they do everything. If they compete or not, that's up to whether, someone gets hurt or something during practice. But they're there doing the whole thing, maybe not doing the finals. And then, so what I heard this year is that the alternates got dropped from all support. So no money, no hotel, no support, basically. They were on their own. So I think that was a part of what kicked off some of the bigger issues, or kicked off some of the bigger shit that went down this year. And then... But from everything I've kind of garnered, I've talked to a few people who are kind of, one guy who's like pretty tight with the Crankworx people, but also a rider. One guy who's a rider who would know those guys. It all comes back to the same thing. I think they're all to blame, the Crankworx and the riders. Yeah. So it seems like while there's been negotiations, quote unquote, it sounds like the negotiations have been like a WhatsApp message here and there, from one rider to Crankworx. It's never been an actual group
For
thing.
it to happen like this, for them to pull the pin
and
so soon before the event, that means they're not negotiating. That's the whole point.
Yeah. No. And so it was actually quite interesting. A listener messaged me yesterday, wanted to remain anonymous, so
Who was it?
I won't blow him out, but he...
Come on.
What does his name rhyme with?
he was saying how while at the dual slalom, it started to rain, so he went to get a bit of shelter. Went over to the Red Bull kind of area, and all the slopestyle guys were there having a bit of an impromptu meeting. And apparently Rogatkin was leading this meeting.
Holding court?
This is what's that? Yeah,
Was he holding
Rogatkin
court?
was holding court.
Yeah.
Did he have a peak on his helmet?
And was basically saying, well, everyone here is in the same, everyone here's got the same opinion, but only one person wants to ride. Apparently, Emil Johansson was kind of standing there looking a bit surly. So, sounds like Emil was the guy who wanted to ride. But,
right.
Which fair enough, because he's basically dominated and probably makes a ton of money out of this
He wins all the time.
Yeah. And they're basically saying, like, well, they're not going to let it go ahead with only one person. So we're all basically in opinion that we're not going to ride. And then this was literally like right before that press conference happened. And they were, Rogatkin was writing out the statement on his phone and like rereading it and rewriting it like right there and then on the side of the like slalom course, basically.
So it was as amateur as it looked,
just seems,
is what you're saying.
It seems like an utter shit show the whole way around. Yeah. It sounds like there's been no real negotiations. It's maybe been a bit of like here and there of like, hey, we want more money. No, you can't have more money. But they've never actually like got together until this point now. It sounds like they need a mediator, like someone in the middle who actually is like a professional at this job to actually sort this shit out.
Are you volunteering your
like John
services,
said earlier, this should have... fuck no. This should have happened months ago. If they were so unhappy, this should have happened after Whistler last year. They should have gone, right, guys, we're not real happy with how this season went. We're going to do something next year, rather than, like Reddy said, fly halfway around the world and then decide you're not competing, leave a bunch of prize money sitting on the table.
But also, were half of these guys here for Christchurch already?
So, yeah, and then
So were they here for...
I think a bunch of them, there was no slopestyle.
Some were here for, had been here for Magazafest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was some guys out here.
But I don't think, I'd say probably a majority of them weren't.
I think I missed it before. Did I tell you that the $1,200, what they wanted was that up to $2,000. So they wanted $800 extra. And that was what the whole thing fell to pieces over.
And was that...
So Crankworx, I think it's about 16 grand.
Is that being covered by Crankworx New Zealand or the FMB tour?
That would be the global entity, I would imagine, as paying that sort of stuff.
But you
Strange,
don't
though, 'cause they
pull the pin on the whole fucking, like, we're not going to turn up over $800 to ride it. Like, you could have gotten closer to that over a course of a couple of weeks.
You sure that's all, KB? Because
They wanted the food, man. They can't pack a lunch.
they were saying they wanted, it was going to cost like 32,000 euros or something. The total package increase.
Or maybe over the year. That would make sense, like over the 3 events or whatever.
I don't know,
Across
because
all of them.
Ari was on, I'm not 100% sure on that, because Ari was on TV or on News Hub or something.
Yeah.
Saying I think it was 32,000 euro that they were going to need to come up with, and he definitely made it sound like it was going to be on the local organisers to find it.
Yeah, maybe
I don't
that
know.
was including like the prize money going up as well. Because that up the prize money, that ended up being like 37% up from last year or something.
Yeah, whatever the case was, they didn't communicate well.
This also
exactly
shows you
what it
how
was.
like amateur all that stuff is, because if there was a willingness to provide, say, like an increase in funding or whatever else by either the event organisers or the FMB World Tour, whoever, but they didn't have 30 grand cash on site, which they wouldn't have done, then you'd draw up a contract. You'd say, yes, cool, we'll go this far, here's negotiation, but we need you guys to get it and ride because there's 5,000 people that just driven down from Auckland to watch you. So, yeah, you've got us over a barrel here. We're going to cover it. We don't have cash on site. Work with us, away you go. But it sounds like it was as simple as, we want you to put the money in our pockets now, or we're not riding our bikes. It's like Wayne's World. in the scene where
Chris
he's
is
like
frozen.
he needed
We've lost him.
10,000
Oh,
brown
he's back.
M&Ms or he wouldn't go on
Anyway.
stage that night? Same thing.
I
Needed the
I don't
brown
want to
M&Ms.
take like
Didn't have 'em.
I'll joke about the food because I thought that was funny. Because it's like you're asking all these big demands, and then on the end it's like, oh, we need food on course as well. It's like, okay, well, that seems quite inconsequential. But
Principle.
they also cited safety stuff, which I can totally kind of understand. If they're
You know,
not
if they want
happy with the
safety,
course,
if they want safety, they shouldn't do a fucking sport where you do the stupidest flipping, spinning, and try to outdo each other.
yeah,
It's
but
not.
I mean,
It's fundamentally not safe.
but if the jumps are no good, I can kind of understand that.
I
But
think,
they tend to have good builders.
But they
and
would have
things.
known
I
that
read some stuff,
days in advance.
and I can't remember.
Anyway,
Yeah.
There was another. I think this was talking about in a global sense rather than just Rotorua, and they used Rotorua as an example in that they wanted to have an earlier ride time. I think it was an earlier ride time so that it could, if it was wet, it could be pushed out. Where they were saying, well, we're scheduled to ride at midday or 2 p.m. it might have even been. The problem is if the weather hits at 2 p.m, then we're screwed. But if we bring it back till 9 o'clock in the morning, then they can push it out through the
Have
day.
you seen those guys? They're not getting to the course at 9 a.m.
but also like you can't like that.
Like,
all of
come
that
on.
sounds reasonable.
I mean,
But
partying.
if you're going to change that, you've got to change that like months in advance because Crankworx is published.
Yeah.
Like
No,
and,
that's right.
and
Yeah,
published
this is all
in the
achievable
fucking
stuff.
Herald.
100%.
Like, cool, these are the start times. Hey, make sure you're on site at 10 a.m. to see the world's best free riders do their shit. But if they start an hour earlier and you miss it because they demanded changes 2 days before the event, like
Yeah.
this is I mean, it just sounds so amateurish. It's bizarre.
So what I've nutted it out to, or what I've come up with for me is: are these slopestyle riders athletes or are they
Oh,
entertainers?
it's a great question.
Because if
Gary.
they're athletes, they should be competing for their money. They should be only competing for prize money. If they want to be athletes, they compete for prize money. If they're wanting appearance fees to make their money, then they're entertainers. And they should just be riding for... This is like Live Golf. They should be getting paid their money to show up
Yep.
and ride, and there's no
Yep.
prize money. But
Yeah.
if they want to be athletes, they fucking earn their prize
Kerry,
money.
I
and they
kinda
make their
flip
money.
the
I'm a foot in
question
each
around and
camp
go,
on that.
is Crankworx a competitive event or is it an entertainment event?
Well, that totally depends on which side of the fence you are, right? If you're us, Crankworx is entertainment. If you're a competitor, then it's
But what if you're Crankworx?
a competition and
What,
it's a
what if
professional
you're what if
sport.
you're the guys
Now,
that
where
put in the
the
event
problem
on?
comes when, well, the problem comes when it's everything to everyone, because it's entertainment to everyone watching it, and it's sport to those who are in it. But the entertainment only exists if the riders are there, and if they don't cover the costs, the riders don't turn up, and there's no entertainment. And it's a little bit like cyclocross, for example, completely different kettle of fish, but you know, the Vanderpoels and the Van Aerts and those guys get paid huge money to turn up to cyclocross,
Heaps.
and they take
Show
the
up
prize
cash.
money and the free whatever they get, a chunk of cheese or a big beer at the end of it. You know, like it's kind of the same thing. I think the two can coexist. It's just getting the balance right.
I think what
Can you imagine how many Belgians are at those cyclocross though? Like,
totally agree though.
you
Like,
wouldn't
a
even
lot
fit them
more
all
than
in-
Crankworx.
You
would
wouldn't
be.
even fit them all in
but see,
Rotorua.
with
No.
Crankworx is really cyclocross is a really interesting example because most of the people in that crowd turn up to see Van Aerts and those guys right there, diehard fans, because it's winter in Belgium. Whereas like the family of four driving down from Auckland to go to Crankworx because they heard it advertised on The Rock and there was a promo running, they don't know who they're going to see. And that's kind of a point, is like, is Crankworx intended to be, say Crankworx in New Zealand, so maybe it's different in Whistler, maybe it's different somewhere else, but Crankworx in New Zealand, is it an industry event? Is it the best in the world competing in a competitive context, and therefore probably the media value comes from online media, not in-person event attendance? Or is it the AMP show but for bikes? Like, and it should be one of those three things, but at the moment it's trying to be all three.
It's
Maybe they
100%
need to tie
trivial
it together
three.
with field days.
100%.
Maybe it needs to be like field days.
I
moves.
bet you feel. I bet
Well,
you
they'd
field
triple
days.
or they'd probably quadruple.
I bet you field days had an
They would
FMX show
quadruple the
once upon a time.
attendees.
I bet you Palmy FMX
Yeah.
did an
I
event
think
at
you'll
field
find,
days.
Chris,
And
I
Luke
went to an
Smith would have been
FMX
there.
show. Manfield Field Days, I saw Levi Sherwood
What
doing
I mean?
FMX back in the
That's
early
exactly
2000s.
it. Like Crankworx
Yeah.
It was
is
on an 85, I
Crankworx
think.
is field days for bucks.
Yeah. Oh,
Right,
man, it's slapped. So.
I don't think we're going to solve Crankworx, so I feel like we've had a good half an hour Crankworx
Yeah,
discussion.
sorry, Bron.
It's probably
What I would say is that
Oh,
if
would
they
ya?
can get it right, it's still a cool event. Like, it was rad to go and see all kind of industry people in one place.
yeah.
I know that they're making moves to try, and in fact, I was out riding on Friday morning and saw industry people out riding and spoke to them, and they were like, "Oh, it's so rad because we can go riding in the morning now. We don't have to turn up at 8:30 to open our
They've
booth. We
changed
turn
it
up
to
at
12
midday."
o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a great move because that used to kill me. Is that you go to Crankworx, you don't get to ride because you're too cooked being on the stand all day. So
It would be-
if they can get the industry guys stoked to be there,
It would be a cool event.
the flip
in
we're
Florida.
in
side,
the right direction.
We have there's a distributor in Rotorua who didn't go to Crankworx.
Yeah.
I mean, like, does that kind of speak some volumes? Like, they're right
They
there,
don't
and they
need to.
didn't bother going. So
Anyway,
I'll
No, they need to.
I'll leave it at that. Right,
I've just got a quote from an exhibitor at the exhibition,
oh yeah,
which is what you are if you exhibit at the exhibition. You're an
Lester,
exhibitor.
can I try
His
and
name
read what
rhymed
the
with
quote was?
Sharon Schmidt.
Was
Yes.
the quote? Was it in a text? It was, "Man, that was a fucking waste of time."
No, the quote was actually, "We're only here because our brands expect us to be here." And I think that kind of
That's-
sums it up.
Isn't that
That's
literally
a
what you
pretty
do
common
when you
theme
work
that I
for a
talk to
brand?
Everyone I talk to.
No, like the
No, like the
international
global
brands, the
brands, you know,
globals
like-
put the pressure on them, say,
yeah, right.
if you want to keep stocking us, part of the deal is you've got to be at Crankworx or...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for some of the smaller guys who spent a reasonable amount of money to be there and would not recoup that money.
No.
So, anyway, moving on.
Right.
That was half an hour on Crankworx, just FYI.
It was half an hour on Crankworx, and you know what? I probably got what could be the best part of the show right here. I've been doing some digging, and I reckon
here we go.
I reckon
Vital rumours.
I reckon I know where Sam Hill is going to be next year.
Suron.
Anyone want to take a stab at this? Red Dog knows.
I know where
Oh,
he's going
yeah.
to be.
Yeah.
It's not on the couch either.
He's going to be on the side of the motor track watching his son race moto.
Well, I'm just going to come out.
Is he going to be on a
with it.
Suron?
But this one, no.
Fizari
So
or Ari.
this one goes back to the early KB days. Actually,
He's on a Foes.
the rumor is yes.
No,
That is what I'm hearing.
fuck off! Really?
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so I started going and doing some digging around on Instagram because I suddenly was like, I remember seeing Nigel Page at Foes, and sure enough, on the Foes Instagram, there's a picture of Nigel and Brent Foes together
Fuck off.
when he visited there, and I was like, because when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, he's got no history with Foes. You know, he was an intense guy forever. And then I went back and looked just like recently when I kind of started picking up on this, and Hill has commented on it with like saying couple of legends right there. And I'm like, this just seems, you know, maybe I'm reading too much into Instagram, but I think from what I'm hearing, I think this is a thing, and he'll be showing up like later this year. I don't like it won't be the full World Cup season or anything, but I believe he'll show up later this year on a Foes.
Is he racing Aussie Nationals on a borrowed Foes
That's
from
amazing.
an Aussie importer?
That would be great if he was. Maybe you want to Ben Corey's old
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah, yeah.
Ben Corey's old rigs.
So yeah, this caught me a little bit by surprise when I put that one together. But watch this If that's right, if this comes true, we've We've broken news on the OTB
Don't
podcast.
you know, Brent? Can't you just ring them up? Hook
No,
them
but
on
I
a
do know
FaceTime?
someone who knows. Well, I do know him, but I do know someone who knows him much better than I do, and they were like, "I should send him a message and find out." So,
I think you ought to get in touch.
yeah, I'm really hoping this one comes true because, yeah, put that on someone go and put that on Vital Racing Rumours. Why don't you? Let's see if this one comes
I've
true.
definitely never seen that one anywhere. And that's,
No.
But it kind of does. I see how you've joined the dots.
Yeah, so I'm
So
kind of like
you must have
kind of
some
hoping it's
solid
true.
information.
Like maybe find some old Exonic kit. Like I've heard it from someone that I believe will know.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah.
You must have some solid information
So,
because that's so left field that there has like it's one of those things where it's so out there that it must be true.
Yeah, like either I've been baited really hard and I've just completely like dropped some misinformation on here. But then when I went back and I found those Instagram posts, I was like, this connection is actually making sense now. So,
So what's
wow.
KB and I did some very intensive investigation on this.
yeah. I went through everyone he follows just
He had
to
one of
see.
those like those boards with the strings, you
Yeah.
know, like linking. Yeah.
It's like,
Have you got a special situation room in your house, KB?
Yes.
yes, this is where I go to
The
put all the
war room.
Sounded like
situations together.
situation room.
Yeah.
Yeah, the war room.
War room. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's got
just in there
string linking
sipping
riders
monsters.
and contract dates and everything on it. So
Wow, that's
So-
intriguing. You heard it here first, folks.
yeah,
The only question
That's
that
a-
I'm interested in
a
after
very
this
interesting
is
one.
what suspension's he running, because he better be running a Kernet on that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, has to be.
I don't think Kernet
Oh, it
exists
will.
anymore, but
It, like,
it would
Well,
be great.
maybe a fifth
Are we
element.
breaking
then.
news?
Kernet's back. There we go. Let's drop that one.
It would be great.
Yeah.
Where am I going to get? Where do you get the shock for your, your slammer service these days?
Yeah, probably it. I think CJ Suspension is the local Kernet
Kernet.
Hey, you
rebuilder.
know who would
That's
know?
unreal.
Friend of the show, who would definitely know and probably be like part of like this deal. But yeah, Nathan Rankin, like we'll see him turn up somewhere.
Oh,
You imagine that a
little
Hill
do we
Rankin
know,
Foes
Rolly's
deal?
probably coming out of retirement.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
that'd be great.
Oh,
Stop,
so I hear that
stop.
Rolly's off to the Volcanic Epic. So maybe that's a pre-season outing for him.
Yeah, let's see if he shows up on a foes.
Yeah,
C-bike.
imagine that.
In your digging, did you
can you imagine a Hill Rankin team?
look out for any
Was that
any
Chris?
like Instagram activity from Dogboy or like the Wide Open social pages? Because there'd be something there, eh? Like we're going to see Wide Open suddenly
Well-
distributing foes. Like,
I heard
who?
that's why they weren't at Crankworx, because they were busy in the US signing contracts.
Yes, I believe
Dog
that.
Boy's coming back as a team mechanic.
It's got the
JK is performance coach.
those pit jerseys, those pit shirts, the mechanic shirts are going to be out. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Missy Giovi's back on the team too. It's all coming back around.
total silence. All right, well that's interesting. Moving on then.
So a bit of potential news, but man, if I'm wrong, just forget you ever listened to this episode. I'll probably just delete it out of the universe if I was wrong. But if
Should
I'm
probably
right,
delete it. Just delete it anyway.
yeah, probably should just delete it anyway. It'd be easier on the
This
listeners.
is one of those situations, Kerry, because we've
yeah, if
talked
I'm
about
right,
it.
though,
Like it'll eventually eventuate, like it'll happen, or maybe it won't because we talked about it. But
Yeah.
there'll be a connection
just-
between us talking about it and it either happening or not happening.
It'll happen. Some other news I've garnered in the last week. It's been a bit going on. The Hardline series is happening in 2025.
Or can we talk about that?
4 rounds.
Is it before the World Cup? Because ain't nobody making it to the start line of the World Cup. The World Cup field's going.
I mean, this could go back to the entertainers or athletes story as to
Yeah,
what this works out as.
100%.
But apparently it's Norway, Tasmania, Canada, and Wales. 4 rounds. So do we see some... Possibly we just see some hardline specialists appear
So
and don't race World Cups.
I'm a fan of that happening, like a 4 series hardline event. Like if it's, can turn into a legitimate race series.
Don't want World Cup guys being there.
But I've just got one question to put to you, Kerry, Red Dog, and Lester. You're lining up as a contender for the World Cup series overall this year, and you have a season threatening injury racing against
Jeopardising.
Yeah, you shouldn't be there.
Racing against a YouTuber and a trail builder. Like, how do you feel? Are you feeling good about things right now?
What I want to know,
a guy with no chain on his bike.
Like literally, they're on the start
there's a
list.
lot
Like that's
going
your
on,
competition.
what I want to know,
Yeah.
why are the brands that sign these guys not putting their foot down? And I mean, I kind of get it for Santa Cruz, maybe.
I don't think it's
that they want the exposure
I think
because
it's Red Bull, not Santa Cruz.
it's a huge pull. But well, that's the problem, right? But why wouldn't
think
Santa
it's-
Cruz also put their foot down and be? Why couldn't they? I mean, I don't know what goes on in the background there, but
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense that
I have zero insight from the Santa Cruz side, but I'm like, but I guess like the argument has been from kind of all these people that were there, and what I've been hearing is like, plenty of people get hurt pre-season, training on their local track. They clip a stump and they eat shit and they break a leg, break an arm, whatever. It happens, but I mean, obviously you're putting yourself at a much higher risk on a track like that.
Yeah.
But I heard that the Specialized guys, because originally Bruni and Finn were on the start list, and apparently, and again, Red Bull thing, because both Red Bull athletes. The rumor I heard was that they got Specialized to tell Red Bull or the event basically that the bikes weren't going to be ready for it, so they couldn't go because they were both just didn't actually want to go to it.
so good.
man, why would you want? If you were in Bruni's shoes, what would you want to do? There's no way in the world I would be doing anything that isn't going to be helping the rest of my season.
No.
Yeah, it's, super bummer about Goldstone for sure. But I just feel that there needs to be, like, I'm here for it for sure, for the series. The hard thing is when the guys who went, like Blinky, Brooke, and George, all three of them were like, this is sick.
Yeah.
Only one of, I did a thing for the mag with them, only one of them in their kind of messaging backwards and forwards with me said, this isn't how World Cups should be. This should be a separate kind of thing. And the others were like, nah, this is how it needs to move. It needs to move to way gnarlier, bigger stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess when Red Bull put an event on, everyone wants to go. It's obviously a good time. So
yeah, the party sounded good.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's what I mean, though.
yeah,
like,
I don't
like
know. I feel like there needs to be a bit of an in between. Like the World Cups could do with maybe, I don't know, maybe not even gnarlier tracks, but they just need some changes. Like they just need to stop being the same kind of same places, same venues and that. But I feel like there is a place for hardline, but it's going to be for a specific group of people. It's like slopestyle. It's going to be very niche. Like you're going to probably, the guys aren't going to be World Cup contenders. You're going to have a group of guys who are kind of somewhat influencers, somewhat racers that can go pretty fast, and it's not going to ruin what they're getting mostly paid for, like we've just seen.
The problem you've got there, right, is that there's only so many riders at the top of the sport.
Yeah.
And whether they're racing hardline or they're racing World Cups, they're still the top guys of the sport. So the crossover is always going to be there.
And I mean, how dull was the start of Tasmania
I think-
hardline? Like watching the early riders. I mean, they're good riders, but it was just nothing until you got faster guys on the course. It was pretty boring to
There's
watch.
the thing that
It was no better than, like, I would say it's worse than a World Cup, watching World Cup down. It doesn't matter if the features are gnarly or not. If it doesn't facilitate good racing, it's not good to watch.
that was the
Yeah,
thing about
that's right.
watching it. I mean, we were all sitting there watching Queenstowners.
Yeah,
Because
something
once-
Chris.
Sit there,
on the
sit there
footage,
watching those.
the features mean nothing.
Go
Sorry, I think we're dealing with some bad internet connections there. I think that was the thing. It was almost
It's
an
on you.
anticlimax because you were watching guys racing that clearly weren't racing, and then you finally saw someone who was putting a header down. And I was like, okay, the racing started now. I think
I do wonder
it
if
doesn't have to be the World Cup top 10 to be good racing. It just has to be good racing. And then if it's a series of good racing, and they're the same guys turning up, you can have a competition within that series that's compelling, and it can be in parallel to the World Cup or separate to the World Cup, whatever else. But it needs to be a race series, or it needs to be a social media series. But it's like crankworx. It's like it's got an identity crisis. Which ones are going to be?
It's confused. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, honestly, the like influencer guys who were there, no disrespect at all, because they're good in their field, but their field is not racing on a track like that, and they didn't do themselves any justice by riding that course.
No.
At all. Like, it's not good watching. So all then Red Bull have done is brought them along to get some eyes on their content, and I don't quite know how I feel about that.
No. Do you know what's a good event? The Whaka 100.
Oh, what an event.
And do you know what, boys?
Couldn't agree more.
Great event.
We are on board with the Whaka for 2024. We are joining forces, and we will be bringing some Whaka content to the people. It's pretty exciting. So we've teamed up with them. They're going to have us on course. I believe we might have entered Chris for the miler,
Yes.
just to see how it
Good
goes.
to know.
So
Thanks.
Yeah. We've sacrificed him.
We've offered him up.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we've offered him up as tribute. But
I'm looking forward to you guys being my
this is
feed
going to be
station.
pretty cool. They're actually they're also going to hook up a couple of listeners too. So we're going to bring a couple. Well, get a couple of listeners in to race the Hyundai as well. So more on that to come. Once we kind of get things a little bit more locked in, but yeah, we'll be bringing you all some Whaka content again.
Have you guys started your training yet, or what?
No, I'm actually on an off week at the moment.
So that
stop,
means if you're on an off week, it means you have been training.
No. I basically just have a some sort of like chest infection that's come home from preschool. So I've just basically spent about the last week coughing a lung up.
It's
so
an off week.
That's my off week.
Yeah, that's how it works. So you train
That's
as hard
why-
as you can until you get sick from
Yeah,
your children,
yeah.
and then your off time, that's the recovery.
Exactly what I was about to say, Moki. You've got to make every week an on week because you'll get a forced off week at some
Yeah,
point.
hardy,
Yeah.
I feel like we're quite a good.
Yeah, there's no time for rest days when you've got kids.
We're quite a good representation of like the different types of athletes that are turning up at Whaka, because my training.
I don't feel like we don't represent the front.
No,
of
that's what our
definitely a category
guests.
missing.
Yeah. No, there's a caveat to that. That's what our guests come on to the show to represent.
yeah, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
But because my training program for Whaka, and I'm just going to lean into this now, is sort of the everyman training. It's just what I can do. So I'm getting out for a run. I'm taking the dog
Just
for
do
a
like
run.
a run once every week
Yeah,
or so.
I'm going out for a ride with Red Dog on the weekend. He's just putting me to the sword, and then just sneaking in as many rides as I can. But there's nothing structured about it. And then you've got Lester, who's sort of, Lester I think is kind of like sort of like that partner in a law firm or an accounting firm sort of vibe, where he's got kit, he's got a trainer, he's got a nutritionist, but he's also like 60. So he's like he's coming in hot, but he's still 60,
Are all those people you just listed the same person, and that person is Moki?
That's Moki.
I don't know whether I should be offended or like proud.
Do you have a Cervelo in the shed?
No, it'll be good.
Ah, come on. I have a Cervelo gravel bike. It's the most expensive single item I've ever brought in my life.
When did you make partner? Was that a couple of years ago? Or?
Yeah, it did.
I was just thinking that.
Gravel.
Yeah.
I haven't upgraded it though.
Fucking hell. Have you got
standard apart from the
an old Porsche that's been turned into a safari prepped Porsche as well?
Yeah.
It's got sea sucker racks on the roof.
Yeah.
Listen to
Oh,
it.
fuck, that's good.
The partnership bonus at the law firm must be good, eh?
Yeah, it's so good. Lester, we're going to have to put the word into the Whaka actually get Lester tested for doping because he can afford to, because they got a big payout last year at the bar.
Plus, if anyone's going to dope, it's the guy who works at a pharmacy.
Yeah.
Lester's like
Listen
an
to it.
age group
Yeah.
doper.
Wow, hey, did you see?
He's full of cortisone.
I don't know if you guys would have seen it at the when we were at Nationals in the lining up for cross country. Old Jeremy was coming around with the iPad scanning for motors in the bikes, and he's like, "If anyone's going to be having a motor in here, it's you, Masters guys."
Do you reckon he actually had like anything going on the iPad, or he's just trying to put the shits on people and he's just having a laugh? He's just like, look at these fucking guys.
He was
One of
actually
you
taking
guys should have
photos
rolled
of
up on
them.
an actual e-bike, like just a fully obvious e-bike, and see if it picked it up.
That would be hilarious, wouldn't it?
Oh, man.
I just while we're chatting there, I was just looking at the Whaka website to see what the miler was, because I heard that the course might be bigger this year, so it's 172 k's.
Well, that's more than 100 miles, though.
Yeah. 5,244 meters. And they're releasing, the full course is released on April the 1st, so that must be the 100 as well.
April Fool's Day.
Are they doing
Yes,
the 100
great.
as well? Are they releasing the 100 then as well, Moki?
I
you
think
reckon?
so. That's how it kind of reads a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
So,
maybe it doesn't read like that. No, that's the miler course then.
I
Sorry.
threw up some questions on, I threw up a, like Ask Us Anything question on Instagram today. And the best one is the last reply I had was from the organizer of the Whaka. Are you pussies able to complete the Whaka 100 miler?
No.
Yeah,
No.
we're sacrificing Chris.
Yeah, maybe we can do it as a team. We can each.
What,
put
you
in,
can
like-
sacrifice me
yeah.
as a team.
Yeah. yeah, that's it.
Maybe we can we get Matt Chairbrother to be one of the co-hosts, and he could go and do it.
Oh, that.
Yeah, cheer brother, but he would have to do it. I was going to say he would have to do it fully self-sustained, but there'd be
Do
nothing
you
for
think-
him. He wouldn't take any food with him for
No,
170
he'd
k's.
have to.
He should try and do every event at the Whaka, like
He should, yeah.
10k,
The
the
kids,
50k,
the 10 one,
yeah, the
25.
kids, yeah.
Eliminator.
But he also has to.
Eliminator.
He has to ride there
Anyone's
from
gonna pull it
Nelson,
off.
completely unassisted, which includes a straight crossing.
Yeah, Cook Street.
Oh my god! All right, so I'm just gonna have to go. So you saw that he did the NZMTB rally,
Savage. Unbelievable.
which was on around Nelson. It was 6 days of racing, but he did it fully unsupported. So he didn't use any of the water or feed zones during the race. This is from what I understand. I'm pretty sure he didn't. So he carried all his own stuff with him. So the first day started at the gorge, and he pedaled 3 laps of the gorge.
What?
Like
Whole top to bottom.
Yeah, that's
Right.
enough to that's enough to
nuts.
ruin me for a start. So he does that. He wins that day, so he's fastest. And I mean, to be fair, most people there weren't exactly like there to be competitive races. But Matt Beer was there from Pink Bike, and he was a pretty
But
handy
even the-
guy. Raced World Cups and that sort of thing. down
turnaround
also.
time's impressive just to do that.
Yeah. And so he does that, but he was on a pretty loose schedule. Like he would usually start early, be kind of like first person on the course at the start of the day, and maybe be the last person at the end of the day or whatever, But so then he finishes the first day, rides to the top of Takaka Hill, which is, I don't know, it was about 90 k's from the gorge, something like that. Races the next day, which was over at that side. Ramika, I think it was, and then they finished down in at Kaiteri at the beach, Kaiteri. Everyone else was catching a water taxi to Cable Bay the next morning. He jumps in a kayak and kayaks for 6.5 hours across the Tasman Bay to Cable Bay.
Did he kayak to Cable Bay?
In the night, in the dark, with a headlamp on. Yeah, 6.5 hours in a kayak.
I thought he was just
He
kayaking
then
the
rides into
Able Tasman. That's like open sea.
no. Yeah.
Holy
It's
fuck.
no joke. He was going to do it with his bike strapped to the kayak as well, but the weather was a little bit touch and go, so they decided that was not the best idea. So he didn't take his bike with him, but met his bike in Cable Bay, raced Cable Bay, Rode into Nelson, so that was like his easiest day, I think, pretty much. Next day, they were heli dropping to the top of Coppermine, so he rode up to Coppermine. After Coppermine, they raced Peking in 629. So that's a punchy climb up to the top of there once, let alone twice. Finished that, rode through to Canvastown, which is horrendous, which is where the Whaka Marina finishes. That's not a nice way to go because that is pretty busy, narrow, like open road. Hikes up Whaka Marina. I think that took him about 6 hours to hike up. Raced back down while everyone else was getting heli drop. He then rode back to Nelson via the Mongatapu, which is basically unrideable because it's just all massive chundry boulders, and he was going through there in the dark. And then raced the last day, so I joined on the last day as like a guest rider for the day, and it was a pretty easy day as a guest rider because we shuttled up Fringe, raced Tiarakoa, which was split into 2 stages, so that made that even easier. Pedalled up, raced Turners, so that was pretty short. Got a shuttle to Ariri, raced Ariri, pedalled up Maitai. We were supposed to pedal all the way up Maitai Face. We got halfway and they're like, surprise, here's a shuttle. And but he pedalled that whole day as well. And still took the overall at the end of the week. So he still took the overall for the whole week somehow after like getting a couple of hours sleep a night. Got bitten by a rat or something one day. That was on his Instagram. Just absolute insanity. I don't know how he survived. I was talking to him after the race and he was like, I was starting to kind of like nod off a wee bit on some of those last stages on the Friday, on the last day. I was like, good Lord, how can you be falling asleep going down a like descent, like pretty gnarly descent? But he was, he pulled it off. I didn't think he was going to make it out of like Whaka Marina, but absolutely insane.
It's such a savage effort, eh? Like
Ridiculous,
even the times up in the gorge, that's really hearty.
I've never ridden up that hill and I don't ever want to ride up that hill.
And I imagine he's like ridden a lot of that stuff before, but in the state that he would be in, to then smoke everyone that's there as well.
Yeah, that was pretty grim.
That's pretty impressive.
That sea crossing blows my mind. Just because that...
Yeah, that was pretty
even
cooked.
putting aside the physical toughness of doing that, he would have been pretty tapped, and then he's going to get in a kayak and paddle through the night in the open sea. Like, that's on another level. I sort of
and I don't imagine he's got a whole bunch of time to train.
No,
in kayaking.
I said this to you boys in the group chat, and I'm going to say it again. I can't help but feel like because that's a talent, right? That's something else. But it almost seems like he's not necessarily getting maybe the recognition that he could deserve, or what he's capable of is almost in the wrong realm. You know, like everyone's there getting helicopters at the top of Coppermine, which, if you ask me, is a bit of a waste of a helicopter ride. But like, he's doing this incredible thing.
Agreed.
Which is just, in isolation, just fucking mind-boggling. But it's almost like it's a sideshow for this event. And then he still goes and wins the event, right? So it's like, it almost, because he's doing it sort of as a sideshow to the event, undermines how incredible what he's doing actually is.
But I think you threw it out, maybe his talents are wasted in this, and that he should be doing some like God Zone type adventure racing or something where he can just suffer through like 2 days of sleep deprivation and just constantly charging on.
I mean, it's not for us to say what Matt Fairbrother should be doing with his time. Like, I mean, it's certainly not. But like, you do get the sense that like he's built for like a God Zone. Like, that's what those guys do. Anyway, amazing, incredible.
It's insane.
Maybe
Right.
they just need to run the event with no transport and shuttles, and it's just like the Hardman Enduro.
Just for everyone. I
That's-
don't think it would probably get as many people as it did for the actual
Yeah,
event.
that's
How many
true.
did it get, Kerry? Was it well attended?
I think I couldn't tell you what the number was, but it seemed pretty decent. I would say it was like 90% foreign, like people who'd come from overseas for it. There was a few people
Oh,
around.
Oh, really?
There was at least one OTB listener. Yeah. So met a bloke from Invercargill who listens to the show. But,
yeah.
no, it was good, but
It's interesting that it was such
yeah,
a big
decent.
overseas.
It was decent. Like quite a few people there.
That's cool.
Right, must or bust. This is a segment where each of us are going to bring a topic of whether this is a must or a bust. So I don't know how to explain it much better than that. So I'm gonna start in my top left of my screen, which is Leicester.
Oh,
You've got anything for the must or bust?
No, I don't. To be honest, I didn't prepare anything for Master Bust. But
notified
put me in
3 days
last,
ago.
Coach. Put
I
me
have
in
one.
last.
I have one.
All right, Red Dog, you're next.
I've
have.
had a busy week. All right.
I thought of this
Busy
one
on the
before
doping schedule.
when I was going for a quick run, and I know KB is hot on this topic. Night riding.
Oh,
Nah.
It's coming
Bust.
around that time of season.
100% must.
Time to dig the lights out. KB, I've already done it.
100% must.
It's a must. 100%
Yeah,
must.
I'm a must in that
Yes.
camp as well.
We have a majority.
I fucking hate night riding.
Oh yeah.
You can tell the guy who works from home, and I use work in air quotes, and lives
shit.
within riding distance or close
Yeah.
to trails.
Yeah.
Yeah, guilty. So the last night ride that I can remember going on was in Christchurch, and I was riding with Scalzi, and I came around this corner on Daz's or Shaz's in Vic Park, and there was like a just front wheel size swallowing hole that you couldn't see in the shadows, and my front wheel just disappeared into it, and I chest slammed and was winded in the dark, lying on the ground. And that was pretty much where I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'd rather go running. I go running in the winter at night.
Do you wear a head torch
It's-
running?
I'd rather just go for a run. Yeah.
Oh,
Sometimes.
Sometimes
I
this
just
is
run
new
around
information, eh?
Sometimes I just run around town under the streetlights.
Yeah. He's splitting hairs here.
Yeah,
I
agree.
reckon-
That's a bit odd.
I don't know. I think you need to. I think you need to re-explore it. I'm a firm must on night riding. In fact, I look
Yeah.
forward to night riding season.
Yeah. It's great because you can do like an hour's riding and then go to the pub in your
That's
slippers.
so good. There are a few things, you know, like on a cold, crisp night.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Moki.
yeah, no rush to get home because it's already dark.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to ride your bike in winter and you have a normal job, you have to have lights and go riding in the night.
Especially if you're a partner in a law firm.
I'd for
Mate,
go
that's-
for a run. No, because
I
he
know,
doesn't have to
exactly.
go out at night.
My point. You're just agreeing with my point.
He'd be on the Peloton doing a training session on the Peloton.
He's got one of those full Peloton
The
setups
live
that
Peloton
like,
coach.
changes like angle and everything, and he's got it set up next to the Porsche with the sea suckers on the roof and everything. He's got like a 75-inch flat screen in the front of the garage. And you know what else he's got in that garage? You know what Moki's got in that garage? He's got marine carpet on the floor.
I love how we've just given him this persona. And it's
I'm just going through there going, no, I don't check that box. Not that box either. I don't have marine carpet on the garage floor. I do have...
There's a surveiller
Marine
on the
carpet in
garage.
my
That's all I
office,
need to know.
Oh, there it is.
And your office.
The Savella's
Your
not
office
in
on
the
a boat.
garage, it's in my office.
Oh, it's
Anyway,
all right, Chris. Have you got a must or bust?
go.
I do.
Chris. I've got one to follow up with Chris. So.
All right.
Okay, XC helmet and trail kit.
Oh,
Oh, I like it.
Only if your name's Nathan Rankin.
Yeah, which means that makes
yeah,
it.
I'm
That
fine
makes
with
it.
Yeah, it's
But
good. as well.
so, Kerry, you've just kind of given it a blanket must. Because it's like, if it's okay for Nathan
yeah,
Rankin,
I'm
it's
torn.
okay for me.
No, I don't
Nah.
think it is though, because not everyone can pull it off.
No, it's not okay. No
Nah,
way.
Just
see,
pulls it
if I'm in baggies, I've got a visor on, and if I'm in my lycra, I've got no visor. That's how it goes.
I'm going to just fill you on just how shallow us accountants can be. Is that there's been a time when I haven't gone riding because I've had baggies and only an unpeaked helmet.
But what were you riding?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What bike?
On a mountain bike.
No, but what mountain bike?
I was on my Slash. That was the other thing.
That's fine.
Like you
I'm
can't ride
okay
an
with that.
enduro bike
You
with
like-
baggies with no peak.
This is the nuance that must have bust here, because you're not going out on the Slash with the XC helmet or without a peak. Like I'm there for that, but equally, like, see, this is what I'm finding some conflict now, because I'm going out on a ride midweek on my XC bike, and I'm not wearing a peak on the XC bike.
I'm just
Because
said
if
he
I'm
can't
wearing
talk.
a peak on the
I'm
XC
gonna
bike,
say
then
no,
what
he's
shoes am I
wrong.
wearing, right?
Yeah.
There's a flow-on effect, right? Like, so you've got the peak. What shoes are you wearing, Mikey?
Nah, if you have a peak, you have to be wearing.
Trail shoes.
Nah, so see, I've got a little slightly different nuance than you have, right? So the peak has to match the baggy shorts. Mm-hmm. You potentially might have a lycra-ish style shirt on, at least
Like a
quarter
half zip.
a half zip. But
I'm
the
here for this
shoes,
because I know where you're going with the shoes.
the shoes
have to
match the bike.
Yeah, shoes match bike. Yeah.
The shoes have to match the bike. So you've got to, if you're going to be on the big bike, on the enduro bike, you've got to be running like, downhill skate style shoe.
Yeah.
If you're on the XC bike, it's got to be XC style shoe. Oh, good, we got rid of Chris finally.
Yeah, thank God.
Thank goodness.
That's my proviso. And I just really struggle with it.
Connection broke
But I'm
up
happy to wear
for all of that, and I'm disappointed
XC
because
shoe,
that was
baggies,
giving me all the guidance
peaked
I
helmet
needed.
on the cross-country bike. That's all right to me?
Yeah, I do that sometimes. Like if I'm just going out on the XC bike and I don't really feel like getting the lycra out, like I'll just wear a trail kit with a peaked helmet on the XC bike, but still the XC shoes.
XC shoes, yeah.
So it can't be too baggy though, the kit, right?
Yeah,
We're not talking downhill baggy shorts.
We're not putting 2010 like downhill shorts on.
Not any kind of Azonic downhill shorts.
I've got a secondary question
Yeah,
then.
that'd be good though.
To be honest, though, to me, it's not so much about the look; it's about the function.
Yeah, the fit and feel.
Fuck that. Like,
Don't
get
like
it right.
lycra, though.
I commit fashion crimes all over the shop. So sometimes I turn up to a ride and I know Chris is going to be there, and I just, it's good just to have something a little bit off just to get a comment.
Just
You
keep on his toes.
Like
Poke the bear.
XC shoes with long pants.
Yeah, I can't fuck with that. Yeah,
Ooh.
That'll get 'em.
You'll get me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd get me too.
Okay, so
that'll
where
get
do you
me
draw the
too.
line on
I got a bit of a
lycra?
sideline story about some of that, but that'll have to go off air.
Yeah.
So lycra,
All right.
like
So
a
my
casual ride.
must or bust is I had an interesting message from a previous guest on the show, Mr. Byron Scott, the other day, wanting to get a gravel bike for winter, but one with flat bars.
Nah, bust.
So like a
So flat
commuter.
bars on a
Bust.
gravel bike, I'm definitely a bust.
Nah.
I said just buy a XC hardtail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
kind
fine.
of with you.
I agree.
I'm not passionately against it, but you'd always got a drop bar, I think.
My thing kind of comes from, as a mountain biker, if you're on a flat bar gravel bike, you're going to want to ride it like a mountain bike, and you're just going to destroy the thing,
Yeah.
and probably end up crashing at the same time, and blow your tires to bits. So
Yeah.
either get a hardtail or get a
Nah.
gravel bike.
Drops only on a gravel bike.
Yeah.
Hope
Plus,
you're listening,
when you're
Byron.
commuting it, you can get in and out of the cars way easier.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think
Nah.
that's good guidance.
Anyway, that was easy.
for a friend of
Good.
the show.
All right. Mine, and it's one that I've been seeing more and more lately, and given that I'm a father of two young boys who both are quite enthusiastic on riding bikes now, parent-run Instagram accounts where everyone's trying to make their kids, their 3-year-olds, into the next Jackson
Nope.
Goldstone.
Bust. Hard bust.
Turn it off.
Yeah.
Go fuck
Bust for
yourself.
sure.
In fact,
Thank you.
yeah, that's more.
Can you
But
direct
this isn't
me?
only me.
Yep.
Can you direct me to one of these? I won't
I'll
look
have-
at it, but
I'll have to find some and send them. They just seem to like, I looked at one, and then I just seem to be getting them popping up in my feed page now, of course. And I'm just like,
It's a hard no.
nah, like we don't need it.
The reality is that those kids, by the time they're 18, if they got an Instagram page now, I hate to say it, but by the time they're 18, they ain't going to be riding bikes anymore.
The reality is, probably 90% of them, if they're like 3, 4, 5 years old now, give them another 4 years and they probably won't be riding bikes. They'll be into fucking playing PlayStation or something. Like,
quite likely.
They're just like, even the logistics of that. How does that work? Like,
well,
at
it
what
looks
point?
like Chris has disappeared for good, so yeah, it's kind of handy. At least we got rid of him. But I had a few Instagram questions. Quite a lot of them. I'll just have to address it.
Below the line.
I'm
Some of them
going
are
to
below
address
the line.
it. Thibaut de Prella, we're not addressing. We'll leave that at that.
We
If
will
you
not be
wanna-
touching on that.
If you want to read the information, if you want to read anything about that, go look in the Vital Forum. There was quite a few in there. Quite a few slopestyle ones that was already questioned. Strawhen asked how buggered I was after the Mammoth Enduro. I was pretty cooked. I was cramping up. It was remnants of the Whaka near the end. I was getting some good cramps. It was a lot of walking. I walked up so many hills because it was just all steep liaisons.
Crazy.
And the walking got me. Tom Bradshaw, Tom responded to your question sticker with nothing. So thanks, Bradshaw. That's good. He didn't actually give us anything.
Say hi to Brad for us. Brad Tom.
Right. Is glue a good way to build a bike? From Rob Moore. We didn't actually talk about that, did we? Bernard's front end falling off.
I gotta say, like, if you're going to be building prototype bikes out of that stuff and racing them, and then realise that it's not done right, like, just do it right in the start. I don't know. A race is not a place for testing stuff if there's any variance on perfection.
I think one of the bits that not that I enjoyed the front end falling off, but when they realised that, like, oh shit, we probably should get out of this camera shot, and they went to the podium, and you hear Lockie say to Jake Jewett, who's sitting on the hot seat, has that ever happened before? And Elliot was talking, and you couldn't quite hear it, but I'm pretty sure I could hear him saying something about, like, yeah, I ran one into a tree and basically did something similar. So yeah, that was quite amusing because it was really clear for a start to listen to. But they threw out the bit of an explanation. But I've also
the John Clark, the front end came off.
That was
amazing.
High end stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
that was the best part. That was on the Pressure Police Instagram.
Yeah. You videoed it for me and sent it through to me.
Yeah.
Like,
because I know you
that's
don't do
how
Instagram.
That's how I ingest social media. If it's really cool or interesting, KB videos it, screen videos it, and send it to me.
That's gold. No, that was a really good piece of content. That
was
won
great.
the internet for sure.
Right. So the other thing I had to cover was actually most of the questions were stuff that we've already talked about or stuff that we're not going to talk about. Pink Bike have brought back fantasy. Should we start an OTB fantasy league again? I think we could actually put some prizes together for it this year too.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Yeah, we could do it. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe
I'll get
we
on it. I'll find some prizes.
Didn't Cow win last time?
He did. He didn't know how to work it or anything. So that's good. We'll get on that. I'll find some prizes. If anyone wants to be the title sponsor of the OTB Fantasy League for the World Cup season, slide into the DMs and let us know. But otherwise, I think that's been a good wrap up for.
I'll tee up the accountancy firm. They might be able to sign up that.
Yeah, good. Might be a bit of cash. You reckon?
Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah, we're looking for some tax write-offs this year.
Yeah,
so.
good. Yeah, that sounds good. Right. Well, if you've watched us on YouTube, thanks for watching. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can also watch us on YouTube. So we've got multiple different outlets at this point, but good to be back for another year. We'll have to set up a bit of a schedule of when these are actually gonna show up. Try and keep it somewhat consistent. But thanks, boys.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
lads.
See you next time.
Straight to bed.
What's up?
I come from the land of down under. I can't hear you. What was that? I can't hear you. I let it be like John Lennon, the anti-serum that you don't get for poisonous venom. Read the label carefully, I'm only here for the show. I love hip-hop too much to let you feed my ego. In the key of F-U-C-K, Y-O-U. I mean, why do I owe you if you're not helping me through? I mean, why do I owe you if you're obstructing my view? Success is not my castle, just a house that's brand new. You see, I irrigate the culture, give it shape like a sculpture. Still complicated, drop like I'm supposed to. B-L-I-T-Z like my DJ. Rock to the rhythm like you rock to what he plays.